Hey guys, Albino here again. So we're gonna do this whole war in review thing. This is our second one in the series. Just kind of wanted to clarify some of the things that how I'm planning on doing this in the future. So this video is going to really focus on just the strategy of the war. It's not really going to be gameplay. I will include links to some of my attacks in war in the description, and we should be getting a couple other videos from Red Prime as well, and I should be adding those in the description as well when he makes those available. But really here we're just gonna go over, you know, where we attacked, why we attacked, some defensive losses, some defensive wins and some offensive losses. Just to kind of see like what patterns are, where we as an alliance struggle. But overall, this war was pretty solid. Obviously, we won. This was actually our second war in a row, and second war overall that we full cleared on 4th energy refresh. Yet again, required a lot of purchases of war attacks, a lot of third buys from a lot of people, but we made it happen. So it's really what matters. So jumping right into this, basically we started with our same old of drilling down on both sides, and on the flip side, our opponent was drilling down on the left here. We actually got some early defensive victories here from Ray with his Emma team and as Guardians, which, looking at this, it's only 2 defensive wins, but in the grand scheme of things, that's really, those small wins make a big difference. It can stop people from getting that full clear on a 4th refresh versus a 5th refresh, or force them to buy war attacks. So that was a pretty solid start for us. Now, as we drilled down both sides here, we actually came into contact with a couple teams that were really kind of threw us for a loop. They involved the 2 new X Factor characters. Here we go. Here, where are we? Am I looking at? Yep, looking at defense again. My bad. Alright. So it looks like we had a combat canceled here, which kind of bites. Like I said, on the converse of what I was saying earlier, us having early defensive wins is great, but us also having early defensive losses hurts, especially on something that should have been a solid attack here. But I know going into Mercs with an imbalance X-Men team can be pretty poor. They can easily snipe out Beast or Cyclops, and that really reduces the chances of a win, because you're not going to end up with that wombo combo of offensed up Cyclops ult into Phoenix ult, or flip-flop depending on who the Mercs kill first. But back to this X Factor team that I was talking about. I like making myself a liar here. Here they are. So we ended up with, you got these 2 new X Factor guys with your 3-core Hydra. And as you can see, Gamoa went in with defenders, which clearly didn't work very well. Luckily, Jay had the idea of using Inhumans, and even though it was a 40k punch down, it got them off the board, and that's really what matters. These guys are speed demons. There's actually a bug with one of the two, I can't remember which one, which gives them like 20% more turn meter versus it's 40% overall, the bugged version, and it should be 20%, so they're extremely fast. And then similarly, we saw something over in Hangar with a She-Hulk team that has one of those new X Factor guys, and that's where we also saw some more offensive losses. Iceman tried to use some kind of hodgepodge team here. He at least got rid of the X Factor of this team, which allowed for someone else to come in and clean up. Mad Titans lost here, probably just a not taking into account the larger Taskmaster and how much this team can hurt even on a 50k punch up at lower levels. Plus they have the Merc Soldier in here, which he recently got buffed for the Skilletary team, so his passive could be increasing the health and damage of all these mercs in here, which definitely could have made a big difference there. We also have a couple combat cancels here. Once again, these imbalanced teams are what really hurts us. I mean, this is a relatively good team. I mean, Wolverine's really not worth much, but these three just being nothing doesn't do us any good. Especially Colossus. He's your wall against them just nuking down Phoenix when she becomes Dark Phoenix. So, but then again, you see Kamoa got a little inventive and threw Green Goblin in here just to get the W, because Green Goblin would have pulled off buffs from the shield team here, so that's pretty solid. Let's see here. So we ended up drilling into their bridge here, and then kind of hit a little bit of a stall. Meanwhile, we ended up continually drilling through M. Scott and Hangar, and then we drilled to Omnius in engineering. We actually decided here, much like the previous war, thinking, okay, we weren't seeing a buff on bridge, so we assumed security wasn't underneath here. But we saw the buff on Hangar for engineering, so we assumed we would have a similar engineering security, armory, barracks, med bay set up from last war. So I threw out the idea, let's just full clear this engineering to see what's beside it and next to it, and you'll see it didn't play out the way we thought, but it worked out in the end. But I did want to jump in because I know I had a personal offensive loss in here. This was a bad call from me, asking Colt to use his supernatural against this team, but he corrected it with Brotherhood. And I know I do a lot of the shot calling, but guys, if you feel like I'm giving you a bad call and you have a better gut feeling, then please do it. And sorry, I'm pointing to Gonzo here with Brotherhood, but here you can see Colt did with his Brotherhood up here. This is actually the result of my failure, which we'll get to down here. A lot of these canceled attacks hurt. Iceman tried to do what Gonzo did up above and failed, which is why we had Gonzo go in with an even larger Brotherhood to clean up that Doc Ock. But that Doc Ock was a result of my failed X-Force. Now, I have a video of this, which I'll put in the description of this video. Super infuriating fight. Like, I had all of Sinister Six cleared out, and then it's just 4 minutes of me with a full team of X-Force trying to break through this 121,000 Doc Ock with his healer ISOs. It's just, healer ISOs are so broken on larger targets like that, especially Doc Ock with his passive healing. It's just rough. But yeah, we ended up completely full clearing engineering so that we could see one. We ended up with barracks in the corner as opposed to armory, but that's not really out of the norm. We're thinking either barracks, armory, or armory, barracks. Flip that, whatever. But next to here was actually reactor, which was like very odd to us. It also meant that in the meantime we had continued to drill through bridge here and revealed cargo bay. So that meant we had an unmarked room here, or a room that wasn't uncovered here, here, and here. So when we saw on barracks, we knew it had the security debuff. So we knew security was down here, which meant that armory or medbay were in one of these two locations. We decided to do the full clear on barracks, which we actually didn't really have that many losses in here. An Avengers loss. Actually, I believe we had 2 Avengers losses. So Red Hammer's Sinister Six loss here, as well as Dread's Pimtech loss here. And then we also had, and this is a continuous pattern with us. Super large Captain Marvels. Just they give our teams a really rough time, especially something imbalanced like this. Phoenix is big, but Captain Marvel's bigger, so she just out healed / damaged them, which required us to clean it up later. But we did, we cleared barracks relatively quickly, and we also opted to finish out hangar. Ran into a little bit of an issue with these, with the Red Skull Hydra with Zemo. As you can see, Dread actually ended up using 2 teams here and didn't even get a full clear on that. But Nate followed up with his Zemo and cleared that up. I don't think we had any other major ones. I already covered most of that. But once we full cleared hangar, we exposed medbay. And at this point, having cargo bay full here, reactor full here, security full down here, and then knowing armory was going to be down here, we decided we wanted to be more efficient since we had already full cleared barracks. Let's full clear medbay just to make everything else weaker. So, taking a break here from looking at offense, I want to jump back to our defense here, because while all that was happening on our side of offense, they were basically drilling down. They hit our engineering and decided to full clear it. Now, we got a lot of nice defensive victories here from Avengers. Avenger Coulson, which I mentioned in our previous video, is our team of the month, and it's been giving us relatively good returns, getting at least one defensive win for almost everyone, at least for those that have it relatively built up. American Prime was actually one who got a ton of victories last war with those teams, as well as his Emma, but it doesn't look like we got that many from these guys here. But that exposed some of our globals, and they decided to go after our barracks, or Barass, depending on who you ask about what I'm saying here in the early morning sleep-deprived war review. Speaking of which, coffee time. But as you see here, we have more Avenger Coulson wins. Gonzo racking up a few victories here. His Doc Ock doing some work as well. For the most part, defensive victories were they actually ended up being exactly even by the end of the war, with both teams full cleared. But we ended up having less defensive wins than them at the point that we had full cleared. But you're seeing a lot of these meta defensive teams, Mercs, the Avengers Coulson and Doc Ock. Now, Avengers Coulson and Doc Ock, technically, they can go either way, but they are very strong defensive teams. Now, they full cleared engineering, barracks, and then that exposed, we have a bunch of globals down here, and I believe their next step was to hit security here. Now, we continue to get a few defensive wins. Once again, Doc Ock here. Surprisingly, this Doc Ock loss here is really surprising to me. A punch down with Doc Ock against this Merc team really should have been a win. Really surprised that Zarathos didn't pull that one out. And if Zarathos, that name jumps out to anyone, he's the guy that does the Zara tools, so like Gamora, Groot, all those alliance management spreadsheets. So that was kind of cool going up against these guys, his alliance. Alright. They actually, after that, they started to work on our armory, but they didn't really blow through it quickly, which allowed us to do a lot of, get completely through both their barracks and their med bay. But just seeing here, they did relatively. They were getting through it in the sense that we didn't have many defensive victories. Like Cold's Aim got a victory here against a defender punch up, which, not super surprising. This is a perfect example of how not to play symbiotes. They allowed Hela to get into that Greg loop, although they probably weren't expecting the Merc Loki Hela combo that Cold was running here. We have a couple guys running this, and it's been getting at least one or two defensive victories for us, which is pretty solid. And then, once again, Avengers team getting a solid victory. It's the Thor variation of it. I'm more a fan of the Coulson one, but hey, a victory's a victory here. Yeah, like I said, they really got through Armory without too much of a hiccup. Anyway, switching back to offense here, because most of the rest of their offensive work really became irrelevant because we were just blowing through their globals. So switching back to medbay here, we kind of melted through this relatively easily. I honestly, yeah, I don't see a single offensive loss. So that was just a meltdown there, and then we did continue to excuse me here. We did decide to drill through, or no, we did not decide to drill through Carter Bay. Excuse me. We actually decided to go through security, and as you can see, we did struggle a little bit, but not too poorly. A cancel here on probably just too big of a punch up, probably not checking the bot to see if this was really within the range of feasibility, especially with a larger Sinister, Emma, and Strife. And 2 attempts at the same thing, just that's wasted energy. We should be able to clean these kind of things up. Yeah, and I honestly don't even know what we ended up killing that Emma with. We'll check here. Looks like we ended up using a BO, which our BO usage actually was pretty minimal. This were up until the end, which is really good. But yeah, like I said, the 2 wasted energy there. Those are the kind of things that would stop us from having to do so many 3rd or 4th buys in order to get the full clear at 4th energy refresh. But yeah, not too many stumblings here. Not quite sure what happens with symbiotes here. Typically with a symbiote attack as Guardians, you should be focusing Gregs to the point that you can get, one, Venom should be able to ability block Sif so that you can continue to just take out the Gregs to feed your turn meter. His ability block stops Sif from doing her taunt. And then you continue the turn meter manipulation until Scream gets her ultimate out, and you can land a disrupt on ideally these 3 here: Loki, Thor, Hela. Hela being the big one, because if you eliminate her, you basically eliminate the chance of running into that whole Greg cloaked Hela infinite loop, which usually causes you to time out. The other alternative is going for Loki, but I'm always skeptical of that because sometimes you accidentally, if you put the disrupt on Loki as opposed to Hela, sometimes you just accidentally push her under 50% and she's then stealthed. You get rid of Loki, but then she just never goes again, which is infuriating. But it looks like Ray cleaned it up right afterwards with an aim attack, so not great. Definitely could have easily been a 1 attack hit, but it is what it is. And then here, it looks like Meat struggled a little bit with getting these three down, which is pretty common when you have massive Strife, Emma, and Sinister. If you don't flip the buffs at the perfect time, which is once Sinister puts out a big heal, you get all of those heals on everyone. You have Thanos flip with his special, and then it all becomes bleeds. And then at that point, you really have to focus Strife down. But with the Minerva on the team, if you don't get rid of her, burning through Strife is meaningless because she'll just revive him. So we had someone clean up with an F4 Tron. Then when security was down, we finally hit their armory, and this was their last global. We really didn't have much difficulty here either. Um, Really surprising. I mean, this was a very close matchup TCP wise. I think it was single digit punch up, um, like 7 million. Um, so really not that bad. Um, Here we have another canceled attack. Um, I know the mirror match of Technova versus, and this actually plays out as a Guardians team because of Drax, but um, this probably could have been a saved energy if we used something like an Inhumans or a Brotherhood, potentially. Because as you can see, it looks like Bacon just went back in with the same exact team, and I guess it just played out into his favor a little bit better. I should have a video of this symbiotes into Asgardians, which will be in the description of this video. So, going back to Ray's attack in the previous room, hopefully that'll kind of clarify what I was talking about. You know, the Brotherhood into Coulson, I really would expect this to work a little bit better. Not really sure what keeps causing these kinds of losses. A lot of the times I'm finding that it has to do with shield security just resisting the disrupts, or noticing here Toad's a little bit smaller than the rest of the team outside of Pyro there. He might not be landing his ultimate and clearing some of the immunities from the rest of the shield team there. Excuse me. But yeah, that really brings us to, at that point, all the globals are down. We have Reactor, Cargo Bay, half of Bridge, all of Flight Deck 2, half of Flight Deck 1, and half of Flight Deck 3 left. That brings us to what we like to call toes, which is 2 on each side. Basically becomes a free-for-all. Hit any rooms, just leave 2 teams on each side of the room. That way, once we get to that final refresh, we can decide, where are their biggest teams that are left, and then we can utilize them where we need to. And what was really solid about this, when we were going into toes at the end of the war here on 4th refresh, we actually we had like 15 black orders left, and with the amount of rooms that were still up, we ended up having, I believe it was, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9. So we had 18 teams left at the end of toes, and we just blew through them. 4th refresh is 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we had the full clear at 9:15 Eastern Standard Time. It's really solid. I kind of followed what DPC Raiders was doing throughout the night, and they didn't end up getting their full clear until well into this morning. But once you're full cleared, it's no rush. You just get the full clear for season points at that point. So who knows if they would have had more steam. But this definitely wasn't an off war for them. They were we were neck and neck up until really when we cleared barracks and started working on med bay. They just let us have our armory for way too long, and that really gave us the advantage. Yeah, so in review, this was a really good war for us. We were able to capitalize on clearing out the globals quickly. Um, they let us keep our armory for too long. Um, we got most of the globals that were going to beef up their defenses. And because they stopped being so aggressive about halfway through the war, by the time we got to armory, you know, we had technically less decent defensive wins than they did, but we had far more attacks into them, so it didn't matter. And like I mentioned previously in the video here, by the time they got their full clear, we actually both ended up with 22 defensive wins. So all in all, really even more. We were just quicker, most likely more efficient. Though we did have to buy a lot more attacks. But yeah, so that's the war in review, guys. You know, feel free. I know it's kind of long-winded here, probably going on 40 minutes of me just yapping. But I'll have most of my war attacks in their own individual links within the description. And as I mentioned previously, Red Prime is also going to provide some videos to give you an idea of what he's been doing in war. All right, guys. Thanks for your time. Hope you enjoyed the video.